All right, let's end the show right now. I want to talk just a few minutes about Miss Hillary. Miss Hillary's on the campaign.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Good morning and welcome to Make It Grow here on WOOP FM 99.9. You can go to the internet at www.woopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553.
Cleveland,
and we got more stuff going on that should be going on there. Good morning, Debbie. Tell me what's going on over there.
Well, there's a lot of loud music playing. I'm trying to get my headphones on.
Okay.
Good morning and welcome to Make It Grow.
You're just awful quiet today.
Well, last week I was telling everybody it was February, so I'm
well,
being
it
very
is not
cautious.
February. It is April 25th.
Last
and
week
Make
I
It
said,
Grow, and we have
it's February 18th. No,
we have
it's March
Faith and Ricky
18th.
from the
No.
Bradley County Master Gardeners Club. And now my brain's not working. Tell me, Faith.
What am I trying to say, Faith?
We're the Bradley County Master Gardeners Organization.
Organization. I couldn't get the word organization in my brain today.
Ricky and I are here with you this morning.
Yes. This is our last one in this series. We do 4 in the spring and come back in the fall and do 4 more, and we may do some during the year here. If something comes up in mid-season, we can come in and do one anytime you guys want to do one. But this is a joint project between WOOP and the Bradley County Master Gardeners Organization, and they are part of the UT Tennessee State Agricultural Agency. Did I get all that right? Extension Agency, right. Used to just be the Extension Agency, what we all call it, but that's down on Church Street, 93 Church Street. 95. Next door. I will say something right today early here.
We'll keep you on track.
Okay, well, that's what you're here for, really, is that. And then the number 728-0002.
2.
Oh, I got one right. All right. And of course, we always tell people, if you're getting ready to grow a garden, flowers or grass or a big field of corn, it doesn't matter what it is, you need to get your soil tested. And you can go down to the Extension Agency at 95 Ocoy Street. And
Church Street. That's okay.
Rewind. So it's too early in the morning for it. Anyway, go to Church Street. I know exactly where the building is. Most people know where it is. Just go down there. You can pick up a soil sample kit, and it will give you instructions how to do that. You would need to probably wait till it gets a little drier.
You can scoop it up now and bring it in the house and dry
let it dry
out.
off, because it has to go in as a dry sample, and for about $7 they will tell you what is in your soil and whether you need to supplement it with something, if it's too acidic or not acidic enough according to what you want to grow. You can say you're wanting to grow tomatoes there, and they will tell you particularly what you need for that soil. $7, probably the best money you ever spent if you really want to grow something good. And also the Master Gardeners also have a Junior Master Gardener program, which is in conjunction with the Bradley County Juvenile Court Systems. Judge Swafford gives some young men and women a chance to go become junior master gardeners, learn all about gardening, or go to jail. And that's pretty much the summary of it. And a lot of them choose that, they'd like to go play in the dirt and learn some things. But it's an hour classroom once a week, then hour practical out in the garden, and it's amazing the stuff they grew last year. And I know things are starting they got things planted now, Rick. I've been unable to come lately because of a knee injury, but my knee's about better now, and I think I'm about better. Not complete, but they got things planted up on the hill there?
Yes. But what you failed to mention is that it's an accredited program through Texas A&M. So it's an actual accredited program where they do get a certificate of completion. And
I forgot a lot of things this morning, Rick.
But that's good. But I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that, because it is something that is,
it's not just something that somebody's just thrown together. It's a program.
Correct.
Yeah, we have real life textbooks and
curriculum that we go by.
And it's been I got to come in the October area last year. I got to come to almost all those, and hadn't got but one or two this year. How much longer does it go on?
the kids graduate May the 19th.
Yes.
But I learned a lot in the class too, because we talk about things, and you go, wow, that I said I heard that before, didn't really knew what they said. So it's been great for me too. So what have they got planted now?
They've pretty much got anything a typical garden has. We got some green beans that's planted from seeds and seedlings, transplants. We've got tomato plants, cucumbers. They put some seeds in the ground for some cucumbers, squash plants, peppers.
They got strawberries up there.
Strawberries. They got potatoes planted. I think they got a couple of sunflowers, not many this year.
Mm-hmm.
I believe those are still in the greenhouse. They're not in the soil yet. They have an herb garden, all kinds of herbs that's in it, rosemary, chives, you name it, thyme. There's several herbs that they plant every year.
Now, how many students are currently in the program right now?
There's 9 students in the program.
And they're pretty busy. And then, of course, a lot of the adult supervision comes from the master gardeners come out and assist. And they've now in the greenhouse. The greenhouse was partly from a grant from the Volunteer Electric Energy Corporation.
Correct.
Did I get all that right? Volunteer. There used to be Volunteer Electric. Now it's Volunteer Energy Corporation, VEC still, and that through their grant program, and that helped get started on that. And you've added stuff to it now, and
yes, sir.
All right. So what all did you start in the greenhouse?
We've had some pepper started, a few tomato plants, kind of heirloom tomato plants that was started in the greenhouse. There's some sunflowers in there. And we even started some green bean from seed to have transplants, which that's new to me. I've never started green beans as a transplant. I've always, those have been direct sowed into the ground. So that was a new experience even for me this year.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, that's good. If you ever have extra plants that you like to donate or shovel here and there, the Junior Gardener Program would be glad to do that. Accept those things for you and help that. It's just a great program. Now, folks, if you have things that you want to have questions answered about your garden, right now it's wet. Very, very wet, and we'll talk about that.
To say the least.
And you can call us here at 614-5553. Grapevines. How do you trim back grapevines when? I had a gentleman ask me the other day, he had a grapevine, I'm holding my hands out, that the base of it's about 8 inches. And he says it goes 40 feet. So, I mean.
An old grapevine.
It's a very old grapevine. What does he need to do to trim that up so he gets more fruit production? Probably too late this year, right?
Quite possibly. Depends on how much growth he's got on it this year. Some of that pruning should be done in the wintertime when the vine is dormant.
So now, where do you cut back on all that?
The plant itself or the vine itself will tell you where. Like the knuckles on our hands, there's little knobs on there that'll give you a good indication of where you want to trim, and just above that, and then just below that is where you're going to get the new vine that you're going to trellis onto your support systems. So you're going to use that to tell you where you're going to make your cuts, which you probably want to do that late in the winter, very, very early in the spring, to set yourself up for next spring.
Yeah, saying it's 40 foot long. I mean, does he need to cut that back, cut that to 20 foot, and so that, because the root system is only going to get so much to it, right? So it's producing more stem than it is fruit. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct. And most of your fruit production is going to be on the newer vines or the newer canes, if you're talking about a different type of a fruiting plant like a raspberry or something, they call those canes. But on the vines of the grapes, you're going to get more production on the newer ones. The older ones are old and tired and maybe won't produce as much fruit.
Now,
that's why those pruning cuts are important.
I picture that being 140-foot base all the way through there. Is there one place in there you cut, or you cut it anywhere?
That would depend on how many he wants to plant and how far he wants to take it. It's pretty much the person. Some of it's personal choice. It's like if you go to some of these vineyards, they have 10 foot between their vines, their bases. So every 10 foot, so their top trellis vines on the top trellis is only going to be 10 foot long. Then you go to some other vineyards and they're 20 foot long. And that's based on, how far you want to plant your original grapevines from each other. And then you want to keep it within a certain distance. So you can cut it back if you want. I know we have two at the at the juvenile center, 2 grapevines, and ours is 8 foot. We just let it grow 8 foot and then we'll cut it back. But then we have another grapevine that comes up and goes 8 more foot. So, but that's just the way we wanted to keep it.
Yeah. I just think is that, oh boy, I've got a 40-foot long grapevine, which sounds impressive, but it can't be producing as much fruit as it 20 foot or even 10 foot, right?
Correct.
But you do it in the fall. Once the new growth starts this year, you don't want to cut it now, right?
He'll lose whatever production he was getting, but yeah, his production's limited because that vine is really overtaxed.
Okay, blueberry bushes. How do you get them to boom?
To boom?
Yeah, to grow and put blueberries on.
Acid.
Yeah, one of the biggest important factors with the blueberry bush is your soil needs to be more acidic.
They want it.
So you need to kind of modify your soil, and that'll keep the plant healthier, and you should get better
Put pine needles around the ground.
Yeah, the pine needles is an option. Pine mulch is an option. There's also chemicals you can add to the soil too. And the soil test again is going to tell you if your soil happens to be way off in the alkaline range, your blueberries will not be happy.
I just yesterday, matter of fact, tested my blueberry bushes at my house. I've got them in big old pots because of the difference in the acidity of the soil, because it needs to be more acidic. And I just have a little cheap acid thermometer, I would call it, that I stick in or tester, that I just stick in the soil, kind of look and see where the acid in the soil is. I know the blueberry bushes love it to be around the 5.5 mark, whereas most garden plants are 6.5, 7. So I've got some organic acidifier that I got at Lowe's, and one of my blueberry bushes were pretty much on mark for me, but the other one I needed to add some acidifier to it. So you get at their soil test, and that pH test for blueberries is really important.
I bought one of those meters, and it gives temperature, moisture, and all that. But apparently, the one I got is stuck on 7 on pH. And I went everywhere saying everything I have 7, but no, it just never changes. It comes on 7, it stays 7. So I've got a bad one.
You know how to test that, right?
How's that?
Stick it in some vinegar. Vinegar is acid.
Okay.
If it moves, then it's a good
I have to do that, but it hadn't moved. Yeah, I'd done house plants, I'd done yard,
You're
under
fairly
my
certain that
pine trees.
it's not functioning.
Everything, and it says 7. I said, now surely something, down under where all my pine trees are, and they're about 8 foot deep of pine needles over the years, is what it seems like, but that wasn't acidic. I mean, it was 7. I go, I think this part's broken. So I just got a bad meter, but it tested the soil moisture was very good, and the temperature, sunlight. It done 4 different things, except it didn't work on the pH. So I was anxious to say, now what if I'm planting cucumbers, and which needs not as acidic, right?
Sure.
How much lime would I need to put on there? I mean, do I go get double handfuls and put around the plant, or do I need to put a little cup of water and mix it in there a little bit? How do I really mix the lime to meet the needs of my plants?
Once you've got your soil test back, it'll tell you how much of the different elements to add to your soil. and it'll tell you exactly how many ounces or pounds per acre, and then you just do the math and figure that
Okay.
out. But
I just don't go get a double handful and throw it around the bottom of it.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
And some of your old time farmers, they can almost look at their soil and say,
Or smell it, or
taste it, and say, well, it's not.
and we don't really advocate that either.
Right.
Yeah,
But
Soil test.
My dad could pretty much look at it and could tell what it needed.
And my father did the same thing. He looked at it, and if he thought it needed organic matter, of course, it'd be the chicken coops or the cow pasture, and would add organic matter to the ground. Or he can look at it and say, okay, if this needs lime, we need to throw some lime on there to help things grow.
Well, I'd say in my area, I'm going to have a lot of acidic soil because tons and tons, 7 acres of pine trees around me. So I'm sure my soil probably a little acidic. But I done my compost last year and used my.
He keeps wanting to show me his dirt.
I had
It looks pretty good.
a big, a 30-gallon garbage can. Now I had it almost full. So I have quite a few, and I went through there and said, "This is pretty amazing." It looks.
And you're using that to side dress your plants? Or?
Yes. I mixed it in. Some new things I just dug up and mixed it in. I used it in some of my flower pots and used a little of it, and I used what's the stuff you put in there to hold moisture in your pots? Verilite, or is that the name of it?
Perlite and vermiculite are
yeah.
actually.
Yeah. This is what it may have. I found something that said this is what it does. So I don't know the name of all this stuff. I don't know the name of anything this morning. My brain's not with me.
A lot of it depends on what company you're buying it from.
Yes.
Because Lowe's might sell a product, it's one name. You go to
I bought it.
Ace or...
I bought it at Lowe's. I was walking through there. I had not intended to buy that. And I said, hey, there's a bag of that stuff. And I bought it and put it in there. So we talked blueberries. You need acidic soil.
Yes, sir.
Trim back your vines on your... strawberries.
Grapes. Strawberries. There's a couple different ways to do strawberries. Most homeowners would want to do the perennial type strawberries where you have a mother plant and then each subsequent year she makes daughter plants, and then after 3 years or so you take the mother plant out and use those daughter plants to give you production. Like I said, the newer plants are going to give you more fruit production.
So you do need to weed those out. I mean, not weed them out, but separate them and
Yeah, just they come off on little runners, and it'll be a whole another little baby plant. After maybe 3 years or so, you'll take that older mother plant out because she's not going to give you the production that she once did, and then use those younger plants to give you the strawberries.
So, and now what's the secret of growing big, juicy strawberries? Starting with the right plant, I'm sure.
The right plant, your soil. If you're going to go into production, like large scale, those farmers, they do a whole different technique than it would for an average person that's just going to grow them at their home.
And a spring like this one without as much sun, some of the strawberry producers are thinking that the berries may not be quite as sweet and stuff. They really need some sunshine to get the berries to get sweeter. But there are strawberries that are everbearing, was what they call them, and then there's other classes of strawberries that are June-bearing that'll give you a bigger crop at one time, or you get the ones that'll give you a smaller crop over an extended period of time. But we need some sunshine. We really do.
Yeah. Anything that they need in the soil? I mean, any type of fertilizer or
It's not so much fertilizers, and I think most of us that are master gardeners agree that it's not so much feeding the plants, it's feeding the soil. You want good, healthy soil that's full of organic matter, and that's going to make the plants more or less thrive than dumping tons of fertilizers on the
And
plants.
you notice they don't call it dirt.
We call it soil.
It is soil, particularly if it will feed the plants. And I try to say that every week is that your plants do not eat dirt or soil. They eat what's in the soil.
Nutrients.
The nutrients. And so that's why you have to, in our area, you probably need to supplement it something.
You amend your soils here because our soils are either heavy clays or it's the light colored
Not a lot of topsoil.
Yeah, chert.
Chert, yeah.
Chert.
I know what a chert rock is. I've been hit in the head with those many times. Maybe that's why I can't remember anything this morning. If you had a small flower area there at a new house, and you don't have compost, what would be a good way to supplement the soil there? I mean, would you go buy some garden dirt at the box stores?
Well, you could do that to amend the soil, but you can also just buy natural manures at the box store, because they have bag cow manure or different manures that you can buy, and that when you mend your beds and before you mulch them, add that in, mix it in with the stool, and then that would actually add that to natural. It's composted material that somebody else has done for you,
Right.
because it's not a green manure. It'll be a more composted. It's actually been through a fermenting process where
They sterilize it. It
sterilize
doesn't
it.
have any funny odors. And
Right.
it's not hot anymore like if you had taken it out of the barn. And there's decomposed bark products, mulch products that
Yep.
they call soil amendments that you also can incorporate into soil just to give you some organic
What about
matter.
mushroom?
Mushroom compost
Yeah,
is
mushroom
another
compost.
option.
Yeah. So now, if you put, let's say you put the cow manure, I've bought that before, and will the plants just grow just in it, or does it have to have the additional soil, or is it too harsh just to be in the manure by itself?
That's much too rich. Yeah, your plants will probably. Yeah,
Overdose.
yeah, maybe
Okay.
maybe a third to a quarter. Mix it into your soil.
right.
Incorporate it with whatever poor soils we have, because we're improving the soil that we're working with little by little over time. But no, you don't want to. We had a customer that took a $300 magnolia and planted it in straight manure, and when they brought the plant back to return it, we couldn't replace the plant because you just can't plant a tree in a hole full of straight manure. It killed it.
Even with mushroom compost, what mushroom compost basically is manure that they've used in to grow mushrooms in, and it's got a lot of uric acid stuff urea that they add to it and so forth to enrich the manure so the mushrooms can grow in it. Well, the mushrooms break it down. So that's what you're basically buying when you're doing the mushroom compost.
Yeah,
is the leftover product of that manure that's gone through that life cycle for the mushrooms.
Yeah, the mycelium will actually break down the manure much faster, so they can turn over that product, that mushroom compost. From manure to mushroom compost is much quicker once they've done
Right.
the mushrooms.
Yeah,
in
you-
it.
And even with that, you need to watch the amount that you put in. I mean, you don't want to overdo it, because if you need to add a little bit every year, not a whole lot one year. And so if you got bad soil, you need to have like a 5-year plan to look at that soil. Okay, this year I'm going to add so much to it. I'm going to enrich it this way. Next year I want to add a little bit more, and I want to enrich it this way. To that 5-year mark or 10-year mark, depending on how you want to look at it, to get your soil where you want it to be.
I know, and I'll talk about Clayton Beatty, a good friend of ours. He has a good mix that he can do. If you had one of the big garden spot or a big flower area, he has a grow mix that he can specialize for you. But now he wants to sell, and that comes in truckloads. You don't have bags of that, right?
You could actually, if you got like a small container, if you had a 50-gallon drum or whatever, if you wanted to haul it, I believe he can fill that up because one of our master gardeners gets it that way.
Oh, I'd say I
mean,
I would like to have some of that.
Yeah, you can take it down there. They sell it by the scoop load, but they'll do it like a fraction, a quarter scoop, half scoop, so forth. So if you don't have a pickup truck, but you got a big container, you can probably go to him and get that container, and they'll price it based on the container.
Yeah, and you just sort of Clayton, the very good is the mix that he got for the junior gardeners. Man, it's the way the plants growing now. I'm going, I got to have me some of that.
Yep.
It really is good. So and Clayton's just one of those people who happen to have it, and that's out on his out on Michigan Avenue Road at his
Correct.
plant out there.
Yes.
So
Michigan Avenue and is it Otasso? No, Stewart.
Stewart. Yeah,
Stewart.
right in that area out there. Yeah, you can see it coming in off from the right out there. And, of course, if you want 200 acres of field fertilizer, he can do that for you, too. So, but, yeah, Clayton Beatty's a well-known person here in the community. And so, but that would help too. Is you start out with, if you build a new house in some of these areas here after they've built off the house, I mean, you're just down to you have no topsoil basically, and
Correct.
so you could go in and supplement for grass or anything else with this mix.
That's
Well,
correct.
I-
Or you can do raised beds. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of us have a difficult time digging in the really heavy compacted soils.
Oh
here.
yeah, well it's almost impossible. Someday when you get down to it, it's basically you're there at rock, and
Right.
you've seen in this area they build them on the side of hills, and you look up there and it's just that real reddish brown, light brown stuff. That's no topsoil there.
And if you take in a soil test or requirements to Beatty's over there, their staff can help you kind of come up with a good solution for your soil. That's what they want to do, help people, with their gardenings and,
And they
their soils.
they sell other kinds of
lawns.
fertilizers like fish emulsions and different kinds of rose fertilizers and things like that. They have a line of fertilizer products over there.
Speaking about roses, what can you tell? How do you get bigger rose production? The way
Rose-
you trim it?
Pruning is important, but roses are really heavy feeders. I mean, you really have to supplement your feeding on roses to get the flowers throughout the year. Those knockouts, I mean, they'll get 6 foot by 6 foot, but they require quite a bit of
Now
fertilizer.
tell the people what a knockout rose is.
Knockout roses, it's a class of shrub rose that's bred to be more disease resistant for the black spot and things like that. It's a large bush, flowers from spring until frost, comes in different colors of pinks and reds. They've got yellows and whites. They've got double and single. It's the rose bush you see along the interstates, in the median strips, in the shopping centers. All the subdivisions have groups of knockout roses in front of them. The knockout roses have begun to show some disease problems, though, so you need to watch out for that.
And so we come to like Udawal Nursery where you work, and you could tell them all about the knockout roses, right? Now, when do you plant those?
Fall is usually the optimum time for shrubs and trees and different kinds of bushes. So I would say fall is the prime time. The earlier in the spring you plant them, the better. It's really difficult to plant things in the summer when it's hot. It's really stressful, and you have to really keep the irrigation on things when you plant them in the summer. Fall would be the best time.
Folks, you're listening to Make It Grow here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. If you've got questions or comments or need to know how to grow anything, I've learned through taking the Master Gardener classes why I kill things. Now I've got to figure out how to make
So then
them
you
grow.
can avoid that.
That's it. I said, I know how I killed that. Now, I said, I actually know why it died. Now I can fix that. So, and like I say, I've got asparagus growing. Every year I try to grow something I've never grown before. And so this year is asparagus, and we got, my light's gone, might be one reason. Good morning, you're live on Make It Grow.
Good morning, it's Lisa Poe Jones.
Hey, Lisa, how you doing? If you've been trying to call, my little flashing light has disappeared, and I never did see it.
No.
Okay, well, good. I thought I may have missed some people there. Thank you, Ricky, for pointing things out.
Well, I thought it was kind of odd that nobody was calling, so you might have, but
Yeah.
I got through. So, and I have a question that I will probably actually have to bring a sample by the Agricultural Extension Office, but I have spent several years battling the remains of a weed, and it's a small, woody, trimbleweed-looking thing, and I'm sure it is the remains of one of the variety of weeds growing in our yard, but I don't know what, so I don't know what weed to attack to get rid of this skeleton that it leaves. Does that sound like anything you've ever heard of?
Well, I don't. But what you need to do is literally that. Find one, an active one or the dead one, and take it down to Extension Agency, and most likely
Both.
they can tell you what it is and how to treat it.
Okay. I've Googled and everything, and I can't find anything. And like I said, it's the remains of a weed or a grass, but no idea what it looks like. So
Yeah, and UT has a good weed identification website, where they post pictures of things that they have come across in their travels and when they're out in the communities looking around. But some of your garden centers that have more knowledgeable staff, you can bring a little piece in, or and we'll ask you some questions about where it's growing and how it's growing and what time of the year it's growing, because there are annual weeds, there are perennial weeds, there's summer weeds, there's winter weeds, and that might help us to narrow it down and get you the right product to control it.
Okay, because I've checked out some books at the library, and I've looked on several of those websites online, and I've identified a huge number of the weeds in our yard, but not, and like I said, it's the remains of a weed, so have to kind of work backwards. My second question is there any type of grass that will resist dogs?
Dogs.
Will it survive dogs or run them off? I don't know.
No, we just we had a lab for 15 years who was OCD, and she only walked in the perimeter of the yard. So we had a little narrow path right around our fence, and our current dogs just go everywhere. So we have lost about 75% of the grass in our backyard. So now we're battling some erosion problems.
Well, you might different type grass might be there.
I thought Ron was going to say a different dog.
Yeah, get rid of the dog might be one of them, but no, you may want to consider a different type of grass. What would be more durable for heavy traffic?
Well, I don't know about durable for heavy traffic, but our local extension agent could come out and look at it. Do you have shades, plants in your yard, a lot of trees, what kind of soil that you have? Yeah. And they can come out and actually look at your place and say, okay, this might be a recommendation.
Well, she's pretty sure that that's dog damage that's damaging the grass. Do you currently have a fescue, Bermuda, zoysia? What type of turf grass do you have?
Well, our yard is a mixture of just a little bit of everything over the years. As we have reseeded spots, we have reseeded with fescue. But my husband can take a yard of weeds and make it look almost like a golf course. So we haven't been too awfully worried about the overall yard. It's just the fact that the dogs have worn away so much of the soil in the backyard that we're starting to get erosion and drainage problems.
Yeah, the premium grasses to use, I think fescue would probably be the least best choice for you.
Okay.
Fescue suffers in the summertime when it's hot, and that's the time when the dogs are going to be out there more active. You may want to get a summer type grass, and zoysia is the best. It's really thick. It's got a really strong carpet, or the Bermuda that has those really strong runners, and it's gonna recover faster from the damage because it sends out so many runners and makes such a thick mat of carpet. But turf grass is an expensive endeavor. If you keep your turf grass really healthy and really strong, it's going to show less damage from the dogs.
So, okay. Well, we manage on the rest of the yard, but where they are, we've just essentially given up hope. We've even over the years sectioned off areas, fenced it off, and reseeded and got the grass growing, and then once we moved the fence, it didn't take them very long to destroy it again. So, but they're wonderful dogs. I wouldn't. Well, 2 of the 3 are wonderful.
No, we wouldn't suggest that.
No. I might think that, Lisa. Lisa, where can you get a good hamburger at here in Cleveland?
Central Park.
I thought you might say that. And you get hot dogs there, too.
Yes, my husband was there patting fresh meat till about midnight last night.
All right. So, fresh hamburgers at Central Park. And well, thanks for calling.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye. Get a plug in anytime we can for people, right?
Yeah.
So if you got a business and got a question, this is one way to get advertised here, right? Call us, and you can call us here at 614-5553. We got Make It Grow with the Bradley County Master Gardeners, and it's an organization that you could become a member of, or if you'd like to learn more about gardening, there's a Master Gardeners class that happens once a year. It's about coming up towards the end of the current 2015
but they need
class.
to get on the list.
So, yes, you can call 728-0002 and say you'd like to become a master gardener. And they would put you on the list and give you more information. It's about a 16-week course, 3 hours, 1 time a week for 16 weeks. And we got a call coming in here. Good morning. You on Make It Grow?
Yeah, I have a question about Zenith zoysia. Are you familiar with
Sounds
that?
like
I don't know.
for
I don't
Faith.
know her. Go ahead, Faith. Go ahead with your question.
What's your question?
Well, exactly how much sun does it have to have?
At the bare minimum,
Yeah. It's supposed to be a shade-tolerant variety.
that's true. I would say, depending on the time of the day, you probably want a good 3 hours of some sort of direct or indirect sunlight on the stand of grass that you've got there.
Okay.
So what?
A little bit less if it's in the afternoon sun, a little bit more if it's in the morning sun, because the amount of energy that it'll pull in from that is different.
What's the cover over it's going to provide the shade?
Trees.
Trees. What kind?
Hickory and oak.
And that's a whole nother issue there, because growing under trees is difficult, and then growing under nut trees is even more difficult.
Right.
But you do have the best varieties of grass that are available.
Right. Well, I've got some Amazoy and some Meyer, and they just won't grow in this area. So I was looking at the Zenith.
Yeah, I think that would be a better option, but you're really going to have to give that turf grass a good TLC and really keep up after it.
Okay. All right, but it's worth it if it takes.
Yes, it is worth it.
Good luck.
Just a lot of work.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We work so hard to get a lawn, and then we fuss about mowing it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So with all this rain that we've been having, and we talked about fertilizers, I'm thinking we might need to supplement some fertilizer, because some fertilizers are leaching out of the soil that we may have put in the spring.
Go ahead, caller. You're on Let It Grow. Make it grow. They keep putting it on the internet as Let It Grow. It's Make It Grow. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, this is Tom Dye.
Hey, Tom.
I want to ask you about rhododendrons. Should they be in bloom by now?
Different classes of them. It's been cool and it's been wet. We've got some of the pink ones blooming at the store. The white ones are not anywhere near blooming, depending on what varieties you have. And
We have
Ours are not blooming.
We have
yet.
some 4 or
Well,
5
just like
blooms.
One bloom. I mean,
Yeah.
one big cluster is all we
you
have
should
on ours
you
right
should
now.
see the buds for sure.
Yeah.
Here's my real question. Year after year, we have the big buds, lots of them. They never open up into a flower.
Oh,
Why?
we all looked at Faith.
Yeah. They look healthy enough. The plants are pretty healthy, and
Very healthy looking, beautiful looking.
I'm not sure.
They're in full sunshine. I don't know if that makes any difference.
They kind of like shade, don't they?
They do prefer some shade, but it really shouldn't. If they're producing blooms and they're not blooming for some reason, have you fertilized at all with some sort of a fertilizer that has a high blooming number? Because that'll always jumpstart them.
Oh, I fertilized them about a month ago. I don't know what it was.
Check the numbers, like the NPK numbers on the bags, and each of those numbers represent a different part of the plant. The middle number should be higher if you're trying to get more blooms. Those are the numbers you look for if you want to feed your roses and if you want to feed your azaleas to get better blooms. Same thing with a rhododendron.
Yeah, you can go to
Any kind of
any nursery, and they could give you the right.
yeah. Just check those numbers. There's 3 numbers on the back of the bag,
Okay.
and the middle number should be higher.
So like 10, 20, 10 or something like that.
Yeah,
Or
sometimes it'll say bloom boosters or
Yeah.
For blooming plants on the package. They also like to have soil on the acidic side,
Right.
so you can use azalea food. Azaleas are actually in the rhododendron family.
or once again put around the bottom of pine needles. Don't stack them up real high, but you can put them around the edges of it.
Put what around them?
Pine needles. You'll see a lot.
Use some sort of a pine needle or pine mulch as you're mulching.
I do that for the winter. Then I've removed them now.
Yeah.
Could just leave them there. Huh?
Yeah, you can leave them there. I wouldn't stack them up a foot deep around
No.
up against the tree. I'd put them out around more the edge of it a little bit. But that would help some of the acidity if they need that.
Okay.
You might be one of the lucky people that doesn't have acidic soil, but now you need it.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Good luck.
Bye-bye.
That was a good question. Yeah.
It was a good question. I have people call me on a daily basis about why their hydrangeas don't bloom.
What about? Oh well, I got
Well,
that problem too. We
Me
got that
too.
problem too. We've got.
Mine's just all sticks right now.
Yeah,
That's not unusual.
I hate the things myself, but
I
you
love them
can't.
when they bloom.
You can't kill them.
We tried to kill them.
I've tried to kill them, and they just grow more. But what about the rhododendron? You prune those? How do you do those?
You can prune pretty much everything, and when you're doing those pruning cuts, it actually invigorates most of the plants. The timing is important on when you prune things, and flowering shrubs like hydrangeas and rhododendrons and azaleas, you need to do your timing of your pruning cuts after they've finished flowering and after those flower heads or flower petals have died back away. Because if you wait too late in the season, you might prune off the blooms for next year. And that's what people do with their hydrangeas sometimes. They'll wait until fall,
Like
winter,
sticks, yeah.
and then they'll trim them back. And the plant has started to store up its energy for the next year.
So
you've just removed
after all the blooms have gone, that's when you. So not to the fall. So that, I think I would have made that mistake.
And if you had a hydrangea like an oak leaf hydrangea that's going to bloom later in the fall, then you're going to trim that later in the fall. But if you have the varieties that bloom early in the spring, you want to trim those after they're finished.
And so, what was the name of the plant we were just talking about?
Rhododendron.
No, the next one, hydrangea. How do you get what would you? The same advice for the rhododendron is that to get them to bloom?
Yeah,
a higher number.
Use a fertilizer that has that high middle number because that represents the blooming of the plant. Yeah. The other numbers represent either the root growth or the plant growth.
We have just let them grow over the years.
We let them grow,
and they have taken over.
One year they will bloom, and the next year they don't bloom so much.
And
so
that happens too.
Pour some of that bloom stuff too.
We need to the soil where they are not very good either. I mean, it's pretty bad, matter of fact. So
hydrangeas are one of those plants that really don't matter. Yeah, they don't mind.
They continue to grow. I mean, I keep getting here's another shoot of them. I've got oh my gosh, they just keep going across that area.
Azaleas and rhododendrons will struggle more in our heavy soils because they don't like to be wet. Rhododendrons really need to dry out in between, and azaleas can't breathe in the heavy soils. You have to plant an azalea a little bit higher up in the soil where the crown of the plant is up high, like you do with your irises. If you bury them in a big deep hole, they will drown.
And before we got about 5 minutes here. Before we leave, after the show, if you have questions about your gardening needs, don't hesitate to go down to the Agriculture Agency office at 95 Church Street. I got all that right. See, I'm awake now. And call at 728-0002, and you could find out about your plant problem. The weed problems are interesting. If you have an insect infestation that you don't know what they are, that's another thing that you could look that you capture them and put them in some kind of container they can't get out of.
or bring in the leaf with the chewing damage or whatever kind of damage you're seeing on the leaves, because the critters they're crawling around and chewing on things.
And they can help you there, and they'll be glad to. Sometime even a master gardener may be someone who comes out and help you, and so that's sort of the ideal. That is to help give more advice to the growing community. And our ag agents there.
Something that I've seen on Facebook a lot this week, people have swarms of bees, and they're looking for people to capture those. And the Agricultural Extension Agency can usually pair them up with someone that will come get those bees.
Right. And, don't just kill them.
No, please.
They are very much needed for if you have flowers, if you have fruit trees, if you have vegetables, bees are one of the biggest ways that things get pollinated. So it's very important that we keep bees. And there's some. If you're interested in bees, the Ag Center can give you some information about it. I know in our Master Gardener class we had about an hour and a half about beekeeping and seen the boxes, and I haven't convinced myself that's anything I want to do yet. I just want
to watch somebody else do it.
There's a beekeeper association locally.
Yes, several, and then I know the Appalachian bee lady. I can't ever think of Judy. Is that her name? Anyway, she actually moves 50 hives over to the apple orchards and
rinse them out.
And then
I don't think it's 50, but it's quite.
It's a lot. I forgot how many million bees it is when they get out there, but they are required. So don't kill those swarms of bees. If you'll contact somebody will come get those. And there's a lot of beekeepers out there who like to come. I have a distant cousin who created a vacuum cleaner system to go up and suck them into a vacuum cleaner into a box. without injuring them, I go, well, that's pretty good. Yeah,
I know people that do that with their carpenter bees that are bothering their decks, and
yeah. Now that's a different situation. And the Master Gardener class, if you think you would be interested in learning more about, if you like flowers or a lot about flowers, annuals, perennials, bushes, trees, grasses, weed control, insect control, critter control, and then soil. Talk about the soil. So that's a lot. Got any final things you want to talk about, Faith, before we get out of here?
She was going to mention the rain a while ago.
yeah, we really thought we'd have some calls in on how much rain there is. I know we've had a lot of concern about if you've already put your vegetable garden in, some of the seeds may be rotting in the soil because the soils are too wet, and you're going to have to replant.
And not enough heat.
Yeah.
After the rain.
Your plants may look weak or chlorotic because the rain has washed out the nutrients, and the plants are just, we're having some real issues with how much rain and how little sun we've had this year.
Rain is good, but then you need some heat to come along afterwards, the sun.
You're going to see some problems with powdery mildews and different kinds of fungal diseases.
Will this get the potatoes? All this rain, will this hurt potato production?
It's going to depend on how well your soil drains, honestly.
Yeah, could make the potato starters rot in the soil,
Right.
so it might not produce.
Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of folks on Facebook again are talking about they're just now getting their garden plowed because it's been so wet, and it was kind of like that 1 second that you could do it before it started raining again.
Now, and that's probably not bad for everything, but potatoes probably need to been in the ground 30 days ago.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you couldn't plant.
Once it gets so hot,
I guess you
don't
could
get
plant them,
potatoes.
but I don't think that you get any kind of production.
Right.
So.
If you're still waiting to get things like broccolis and cauliflowers and different kinds of greens in the ground, it's getting too late. You couldn't get in there because it was too wet, but now it's going to get too warm, and those plants are just going to go to seed, and you're not going to get production.
And broccoli, the bugs are going to get it when it starts getting hot. That's one. The broccoli.
Cauliflower, cabbage.
Yeah, they seem to be better. The broccoli seems better in the fall to me.
Much better.
Because you don't have as many bugs.
That's true. We've all experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Hey guys, thank Rick and Faith and the Bradley County Master Gardeners. It's a joint project between them and Whoop Radio. We're glad to be able to do this community service, and we're glad that Bradley County Master Gardeners have any events coming up we need to mention.
More weeks of that.
Do what?
Oh, she was talking about an event that Patrick Sweat's doing at the public library.
Tell that. Yeah.
He's just doing basic gardening topics, not the advanced versions or nothing. I know that last week they just did weeds. So it's on a Monday night at 6 o'clock at the public library, and I believe it is. There's 2 more left. It's not this coming up Monday, but the next Monday.
Patrick's our newest
and it's
extension
free?
agent.
Yes.
No charge.
Free.
No charge.
So that's great. If you have questions about that, call 728-0002, and they can do that. And thanks. And this has been Make It Grow for one more time here. Thank you so much, folks. We'll see you here at 10 o'clock when we're going to talk about the murder of Sheriff Israel Smith. Only Bradley County Sheriff ever murdered. We're going to talk about it.
In the line of duty.
Yes. We'll see you later, folks. Bye-bye.
You're listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. Whoop FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Check into Checking the cash.
The cash you need is